You're such a nuisance. I wish I never had you. Emily spat out those words and left the scene. My granddaughter, Megan, stood there in a daze, staring at her mother's back with a blank expression on her face. The tears continuously flowing from her hollow eyes showed how deeply hurt she was. Being told by her own mother, "I wish I never had you," must have left her in utter despair. For some reason, Emily doesn't love one of her 3 children at all. In fact, she seems to treat that child terribly by disparaging her, yelling at her, and shoving chores onto her. Wouldn't it be too painful for Megan to live the rest of her life without her mother's love and even be hated by her? Rather than letting her suffer like that, wouldn't it be better to just end her life right here? Yes, that must be the right thing to do. I have to be the one to put her out of her misery. I'm the only one who can save her. Driven by those thoughts, I snuck into Megan's room in the middle of the night. With tears blurring my vision, I quietly stood by her bedside. "I'm sorry. I hope you'll find happiness in your next life. I'm sorry for being a powerless grandma. I'm sorry that this is the only way I can help you." As I repeated those words of apology, the moment I reached out to Megan's neck. "My name is Sarah. I'm in my mid-70s and living happily with my husband who's retired. We got married when I was in my 30s, which was considered quite late at the time. From the beginning of our marriage, we both wanted children, but we struggled to conceive. We were finally blessed with a child right before I turned 40. I was anxious about having my first child at an advanced age, but I couldn't give up on the precious life I was given. It was clear that it would be challenging, but my husband and I decided to go through with the pregnancy, promising to overcome the difficulties together. Time passed, and I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Our daughter was small from birth and even as she grew up, but she was more energetic than most kids. Rather than playing house with dolls like other girls, she preferred running around outside and getting covered in mud with the boys. It's not that I never wished she was a bit more ladylike, but seeing our daughter's bright smile filled our hearts with joy. We ended up spoiling her rotten out of our deep love for her. Time flew by, and before we knew it, our daughter was all grown up and bringing home a man she wanted to marry. When I first met my daughter's partner, he seemed to have a somewhat timid personality in contrast to my headstrong daughter. However, as I observed his demeanor and how he treated my daughter, I got the impression that he was a kind and good person. I felt that we could entrust our precious daughter to him. Above all, my daughter looked so happy when she laughed with him. So, my husband and I readily gave our blessing to their marriage. After that, my daughter and her husband had 3 adorable granddaughters. We lived blissful days as a picturesque 3-generation family. But there was one thing that bothered me a little. It was that Megan, the second granddaughter, always had a gloomy expression. Even when her older sister Natalie and younger sister Olivia were laughing loudly, Megan would be the only one with her head down. Although I was concerned about Megan, I couldn't look away from my happy life and pretended not to notice. I convinced myself that Megan just had a quiet personality. She must just be tense around us, her grandparents, whom she doesn't see that often. I spent years thinking that way. Back then, I never imagined that it would lead to such a situation. One day, as we were living our usual lives, a turning point arrived. My daughter's husband's company suddenly went bankrupt. With the breadwinner's income gone, it became difficult for my daughter's family to continue paying rent for their current home. They decided to live separately for a while. "So, I was wondering if the kids and I could stay with you for some time." My daughter showed up at our house out of the blue with the 3 grandkids in tow, asking us with an awkward smile. I found it odd that her husband wasn't with them, but according to my daughter, he chose to stay in the city to quickly find a new job rather than coming to our home in the countryside. She said that once he secured a job and his work situation and income stabilized, she would take the kids and return to him. There was no way we could abandon our daughter and her children who came to us for help in such a difficult situation. My husband and I decided to welcome them into our home, solely out of our desire to help them. A few days after my daughter and grandkids started living with us, I felt the unease I had before growing day by day. That unease was about Megan. Her expression was gloomy as always, but on top of that, I felt that my daughter was especially hard on Megan. When it came to Natalie and Olivia, she'd let them off with just a warning, but she'd raise her voice and scold Megan harshly. She'd listen attentively to Natalie and Olivia's stories about what happened at school, but she'd blatantly ignore Megan's. Seeing this, I couldn't help but think something was off, so I admonished my daughter after the grandkids went to bed. "Hey, aren't you being too cold to Megan? She's your own child, so don't play favorites and love all three of them equally." Then, my daughter retorted in a shockingly icy voice. "Huh? Mom, can you not butt in? I'm their parent, not you." Stunned by her cold gaze, I was at a loss for words. In that time, my daughter quickly went off somewhere. I was left there, standing in a daze for a while. Now that my daughter told me not to interfere, I shouldn't meddle in how she raises her kids. That being said, since we live together every day, I can't help but notice various things. Natalie and Olivia are cheeky and I often see them trying to get their way, demanding things they want or to do as they please. They'd take Megan's belongings, or ditch studying to play together. They started taking a defiant attitude with me too, making snide remarks. They never did that before we started living together. By the way, they act the same as always in front of my husband. And the moment he's gone, they show an unpleasant two-faced nature, treating Megan and me terribly. Because of that, even when I consult my husband about our daughter and grandkids' behavior, he won't take me seriously. "There's no way our daughter and grandkids would do such things. Aren't you overthinking it?" He'd laugh it off, not believing a word I say, leaving me crestfallen. A while after we started living with my daughter and grandkids, my daughter began shoving housework onto me and going out to play. "You're probably bored anyway, right, Mom?" she'd say as she tried to go out. When I called out to her to object, she'd glare back at me sternly. "Shut up. Don't tell me what to do. Unlike you, I'm exhausted from taking care of the kids every day. I should be allowed to play a little." "A little? You're going out to play so much that I can't even call it a little. Hey, wait!" As if copying my daughter's self-centered behavior, Natalie and Olivia's defiance accelerated too. Just telling them that dinner was ready would make them yell, "Shut up," at me. When I scolded them for leaving their room a mess, they'd click their tongue and say, "Don't boss us around." Even though it's not discipline, just everyday communication, they'd rebel against every little thing I said or did. It's truly disheartening. Moreover, I was 75 years old at the time, an age generally considered as late-stage elderly. With my declining physical strength, I was finding it much more of a struggle to do housework compared to before. I thought that living with my daughter would mean getting help with chores and lightening my load, but in reality, my burden only increased with the additional family members. How did it come to this? Was it because I spoiled my daughter too much by raising her? Harboring such regrets, I spent my days doing all the cleaning, laundry, and meal prep by myself, rubbing my aching back. Megan was the only one who'd ask, "Grandma, are you okay? Can I help with anything?" But one time, when my daughter saw Megan helping me clean, she scolded her harshly, "Don't make a little kid do housework." I had no choice but to comply with what my daughter said, so from then on, I started turning down my granddaughter's offers to help. There was no one to appreciate my efforts or lend me a hand. As I continued living like that every day, I gradually became more and more drained. Eventually, Natalie and Olivia not only took a defiant attitude towards me but also started showing signs of bullying Megan. They were probably bullying Megan all along, but I hadn't noticed. Recently, they've been blatantly bullying her. When something doesn't go their way, they hit Megan or use her things without permission and break them. Megan is so oppressed by Natalie and Olivia that it's heartbreaking to watch. After being scolded by my daughter, I tried to refrain from reprimanding my grandkids as much as possible. But seeing their excessive behavior, I couldn't stand by and started scolding them. "Natalie, Olivia, that's enough. Why can't you get along with Megan? It's none of your business, Grandma. We ain't afraid of you, Grandma." But all I got back from them were arrogant words and attitudes. Far from showing any remorse, they escalated their bullying of Megan as if to provoke me. Perhaps unable to endure the bullying from the two, Megan eventually shut herself in her room. She became depressed, stopped going to school, and the only response from behind her closed door was a feeble voice saying, "I'm fine, so please leave me alone." She only came out of her room when Natalie and Olivia weren't around, just for the bare minimum like going to the bathroom. She didn't want to eat with them either, so I brought her meals to her room. Seeing Megan grow more haggard by the day, I felt so sorry for her that I almost cried every time I saw her. Seeing me like that, Megan apologized to me. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm just causing you trouble." She's being bullied by her family, and it must be more painful for her, yet she's still considerate of me. She's such a kind child. Why do my daughter, Natalie, and Olivia bully such a good kid? Why does Megan have to suffer like this? If she's in so much pain, wouldn't it be better to put her out of her misery in one go? Looking back, it was an abnormal thought process, but at the time, I was completely worn down mentally from the daily housework and worrying about Megan. I was cornered to the point of thinking such things. And then, one day, a certain incident drove me further into a corner. When I returned home from shopping, the house was in an uproar for some reason. It seemed my daughter was scolding the grandkids, and they were arguing back. It's rare for her to get angry at Natalie and Olivia. Thinking that, I headed towards the commotion, and to my surprise, it was coming from Megan's room. But I couldn't hear Megan's voice. What on earth was going on? I peeked into Megan's room with suspicion and saw my daughter red-faced with rage, Natalie and Olivia pouting, and Megan silently crying. "What have you done? This necklace was expensive. Why did you take it without permission and break it?" "I didn't break it. It's all Megan's fault. I saw her taking it from Mom's room, so I was just trying to get it back." "What did you say? I can't believe you did this. Stop messing around." Megan was desperately shaking her head, pleading that she didn't do anything. It seemed Natalie and Olivia had taken my daughter's necklace without permission and ended up breaking it. And now they were trying to blame it on Megan. "Wait a minute. Megan has been in her room this whole time. There's no way she went out of her way to go to your room." There's no way Megan, who had been avoiding my daughter, Natalie, and Olivia so much, would sneak into my daughter's room on her own. Megan looked terrified, but she didn't have the eyes of someone telling a lie. The ones lying were probably Natalie and Olivia. I don't know what their intention was, but they must have snuck into my daughter's room, stolen the necklace, and then broken it. They were definitely trying to pin the blame on Megan. The proof was that the corners of Natalie and Olivia's eyes and mouths were slightly smirking. But my daughter wouldn't listen to me and kept insisting that Megan was at fault, raging, "You little thief. You broke it and don't even have a word of apology?" Then, with a demonic look on her face, my daughter uttered the fatal words. "You're such a nuisance. I wish I never had you." She spat that out and left the room. Megan stood there in a daze, staring at her mother's back with a blank expression on her face. The tears continuously flowing from her hollow eyes showed how deeply hurt she was. Being told by her own mother, "I wish I never had you," must have left her in utter despair. Moreover, my daughter's words cut into my heart too. What was she thinking, hurling such awful words at her own daughter? Was it our fault for spoiling our daughter as we raised her? She dotes on Natalie and Olivia, but she'll probably never show Megan any affection now. Wouldn't it be too painful for Megan to live the rest of her life without her mother's love and even be hated by her? Rather than letting her suffer like that, wouldn't it be better to just end her life right here? Yes, that must be the right thing to do. I have to be the one to put Megan out of her misery. I'm the only one who can save her. Driven by those thoughts, I snuck into Megan's room in the middle of the night. With tears blurring my vision, I quietly stood by Megan's bedside. "Megan, I'm sorry. I hope you'll find happiness in your next life. I'm sorry for being a powerless grandma. I'm sorry that this is the only way I can help you." As I repeated those words of apology, I reached out to Megan's neck. The moment I touched her neck and absent-mindedly felt how slender it was, I came to my senses with a start. Was I really about to take my granddaughter's life? My adorable granddaughter related by blood, with my own hands? Coming back to my senses and thinking calmly, I was horrified by what I had done. To think I considered putting my granddaughter out of her misery this way. Frightened, I left Megan's room. On trembling legs, I somehow made it to the bed in my room and collapsed. At this rate, I might end up harming Megan. I was consumed by the thought that I had to do something before it was too late. The next morning, I went to the police station. I confessed everything about how I had tried to take my granddaughter's life the night before and the thoughts that led me to that action. "I'm afraid that at this rate, I might commit a terrible mistake. Please help me." I pleaded tearfully, and the police officer patiently listened to my story. When I finished talking, he was at a loss for words, saying, "That's terrible," about the home environment I described. Then he said, "We can't just take your testimony. We need to properly investigate the situation," and called for my husband and daughter. Called in from the morning, my daughter looked disgruntled and showed a snippy attitude even to the officer's questions, just making excuses over and over. Eventually, fed up with the officer's persistent questioning, she yelled as if throwing caution to the wind. "Enough already! Why do I have to be blamed so much? You care about her that much? I never should have had that good for nothing. If Mom was gonna take her life, she should have done it sooner. Saying she'd be better off dead or you wish she'd been killed, what are you saying? Judging whether you want your child based on your own convenience, are you really fit to be a parent?" Reprimanded by the police, my daughter fell silent with a sullen look. On the other hand, my husband apologized with tears in his eyes. He cried and apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were driven to the point of almost harming our granddaughter. It's true that it was painful not to be believed about our daughter's problematic behavior and remarks, but just having him apologize now is enough." Saying that, the three of us went home and held a family meeting to discuss what to do going forward. We called Natalie, Olivia, and Megan, who were at home, and held the family meeting. When my husband pointed out the attitude towards Megan again, my daughter mumbled some incoherent words. Meanwhile, Natalie and Olivia showed no signs of remorse and were grinning. And as usual, they said, "It's Megan's fault," trying to blame everything inconvenient on Megan. Perhaps influenced by the grandkids' attitudes, my daughter seemed to regain her composure and gradually started bad-mouthing Megan, saying things like, "It's all because you're here." As always, Megan hung her head and said nothing back. As I was thinking about how to discipline my daughter and the others, a turning point arrived. "I'm sorry. It seems my wife and children have been causing you trouble." My daughter's husband, whom my husband had secretly contacted on the way back from the police station and explained the situation to, had come to visit. Seeing him, my daughter was surprised, her eyes wide, but Natalie and Olivia were overjoyed. As if their ally had come, they immediately cozied up to him. "Listen, Daddy. Grandpa and Grandma have been bullying us. We didn't do anything, but they get mad and say it's our fault. Help us." My husband and I were dumbfounded by the two who started saying whatever was convenient for them. While staying at our house, they did as they pleased, bullied Megan, and now they say they didn't do anything? Which mouth are they speaking with? What are you saying, that you're being bullied? You're the ones bullying Megan, right? We scold you because you do bad things. Why can't you understand that? I scolded my grandkids, hoping they'd properly reflect on their actions, but it didn't get through to them at all. "That's not true. We didn't do anything wrong. Grandma and Grandpa are lying because they want to make us out to be the bad guys." Natalie and Olivia kept piling on lies, trying to make excuses and play dumb. As I was racking my brain on how to make them properly reflect, Megan brought over a video camera and handed it to my daughter's husband. "This is the video I was recording. The video camera she timidly handed over had recordings of her being bullied. It seemed Megan had secretly set up a video camera in her room and recorded every time she was bullied by Natalie and the others, collecting evidence. Now that definitive proof of the bullying was found and they couldn't make excuses, Natalie and Olivia suddenly became flustered. That was acting, yeah, acting. We were just helping her practice for the school play. We weren't really bullying her. As the two kept making desperate excuses, my daughter's husband finally got angry. Enough already. Listening to you, all you're doing is trying to make excuses. No matter how you look at this video, you're clearly bullying Megan. And I heard about how you've been treating your grandma terribly too. Doing bad things and not reflecting on it at all. Don't you feel ashamed? Scolded by my daughter's husband with a stern look, Natalie and Olivia completely wilted and eventually started crying, mumbling, "We're sorry." Sighing at the two who finally showed signs of remorse, my daughter's husband turned to face my daughter. Receiving his gaze, my daughter tried to run away, but her husband swiftly grabbed her arm to stop her. Coldly staring at my daughter who was struggling to shake off his hand, my daughter's husband spoke. "I'm divorcing you. Now that it's come to this, I'll explain the situation to your parents." Perhaps realizing it from his words, my daughter hung her head dejectedly and quieted down. And the facts revealed by my daughter's husband made it clear why Megan was bullied so much. The root cause was apparently my daughter's infidelity. Moreover, my daughter had been cheating on her husband since right after their marriage, and believe it or not, Natalie and Olivia were the children of her affair partner. When my daughter's husband's company went bankrupt, she gave up on him and tried to get together with her affair partner, exposing this fact to him. As expected, when my daughter's husband found out about her cheating, he was furious. After a heated argument, they decided to live separately for a while, and my daughter and grandkids ended up at our house. And right after separating from her husband, my daughter proposed to her affair partner. However, he rejected it. The reason was Megan's existence. Megan was the child of my daughter and her husband. The affair partner apparently withdrew, saying he didn't want to raise someone else's child. My daughter, who had expected to be with her affair partner, threw a fit when her plans fell through. And she started treating Megan like a nuisance, saying it was Megan's fault she couldn't be with her affair partner. Natalie and Olivia saw my daughter being cold to Megan and copied her, bullying Megan. I had no idea my daughter and her husband were in such a state. I was surprised, and at the same time, many things finally made sense. Come to think of it, it was odd that only my daughter and grandkids came to our house just because my daughter's husband's company went bankrupt. And the mystery of why my daughter treated Megan so badly and why Natalie and Olivia bullied Megan was also solved. In the end, everyone was being jerked around by my daughter's selfish actions. I guess spoiling my daughter too much wasn't good after all. While I was inwardly reflecting on that, my daughter kept making excuses to her husband. Cheating was a moment of weakness. Being rejected by her affair partner opened her eyes. She wanted to start over as husband and wife. My daughter clung to her husband, pleading desperately, but he cut her off decisively. "I can't believe you now. My intention to divorce hasn't changed." In his words, my daughter crumbled to her knees. After that, my daughter and her husband's divorce was finalized without issue. Around the same time as their divorce, my husband and I told my daughter, Natalie, and Olivia that we were cutting ties with them and to leave our house. "I'll be kind to Megan from now on and change my attitude towards you, so please don't cut me off," my daughter begged desperately, but my husband and I rejected them. The consequences of spoiling her had caught up to us. We couldn't spoil her any further. We steeled our hearts and decided not to give in to her selfishness. Perhaps realizing we wouldn't budge, my daughter and the others left our house dejectedly. After they left, our peaceful daily life returned. But a few months later, my daughter suddenly visited our house with Natalie and Olivia. "Mom, I'm really sorry for being so selfish until now. I've properly reflected since then. The kids regret what they did to Megan too. So can we live together again? I'll help with the housework properly this time, okay?" It seemed that after divorcing her husband, my daughter was living a considerably difficult life. If she could live at our house, she wouldn't have to pay rent, so she came to rely on us, but unfortunately, we've already cut ties with you. We're strangers to you now. There's no reason for us to let you live here. Putting my desire for them to stop involving us into my words, I rejected my daughter's request with all my might. Natalie and Olivia apologized too, but they have nothing to do with us anymore. Eventually realizing they had nowhere else to turn, my daughter and the others gave up and went home. Afterwards, I heard through the grapevine that my daughter, Natalie, and Olivia were barely getting by, constantly cursing at and fighting with each other. My daughter must have realized she couldn't raise the children anymore, so she apparently put Natalie and Olivia in an institution. And then my daughter disappeared somewhere. I don't know where or how she's living now. Megan started living with her father. They visit us to hang out sometimes, and Megan has completely regained her energy and smiles a lot. I can frequently see her smile now, which I could rarely see before. How happy is that? Looking forward to the growth of my cute and kind granddaughter, my husband and I are spending our peaceful retirement life. $76,000 should be there. William, my son, who has been sending me money for 7 years. However, the bank account shows barely anything. Why? When I asked the bank clerk, I was told that someone has been withdrawing money regularly. Hearing this, I suddenly remembered something. Iris, William's wife, drives me to the hospital once a month. I always enjoyed our monthly drives. But one day, I saw her rummaging through my purse while I was in the doctor's office. Not only that, I once caught her talking on the phone in a sweet voice I'd never heard, saying, "Meet me at our usual place tonight." Iris was betraying both me and William. We confronted her. We have all the evidence. At first, Iris denied it, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." But eventually, she couldn't escape and retorted, "We're a family. What's wrong with using family money?" William and I were shocked to see the always smiling and gentle Iris turn into a completely different person. Discovering the true nature of my daughter-in-law was terrifying. My name is Maria Brown, and I'm 65 years old. I met my husband through a friend's introduction. He was quiet but kind and considerate. Our conversation flowed from our first meeting, and we soon fell in love. After dating for about a year, we got married. Our wedding was attended by family, friends, and colleagues, making it a memorable and wonderful time. Then our son William was born, and we were living a happy and prosperous life. But that happiness didn't last. That morning was just like any other, a normal day. "See you later. Have a good day." I saw my husband off to work and was getting ready to leave myself. On my way to work, a call came from an unknown number. "Hello? Is this Maria Brown? Your husband has been in an accident." It was the police. I felt the blood drain from my face. A chill ran through me, and I hurried to the hospital. "Is my husband okay? He's all right, isn't he?" I was trembling as I grasped the doctor's shoulder. "I'm sorry, but..." "No." I was just 32 at the time. After getting married and having a child, just when it felt like our life was truly beginning, I broke down in tears. And so, I became a widow in my 30s. I was determined to protect my precious son at all costs. Since then, I've raised William by myself. I worked multiple jobs, day and night. To avoid making William feel lonely, I took Sundays off to go out with him, and we went on many trips. When William was in middle school, while most kids his age were becoming rebellious, he was different. "Mom, you're working too hard. Take a break," he would say, and brew me coffee. When I come home from school, William sometimes says, "I'll cook dinner today," and makes us a meal. He's always been considerate like that. I wonder if he got his kindness from his late father. It makes me happy to think so. One day, he came running up to me with a sudden inspiration. "Mom, I've found what I want to do." "What, all of a sudden? What do you want to do?" Yeah. I will be in high school soon. I've been thinking about my future dreams. And I realized I want to be a teacher, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. He told me how he had gotten into international music recently. He loved the music but didn't understand the lyrics, so he started translating them into English and loving sharing with his friends. That's great. I'm rooting for you. Then he went to a high school and later to university. The university expenses were hefty, and honestly, our finances were tight, but seeing him go to study happily every day made me think, all right, let's keep pushing on. Eventually, he graduated from university. He got the teacher certification, fulfilling his dream of becoming a middle school teacher. 20 years ago, from today, after he'd been teaching for a few years. He said, "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet," and brought home a lovely woman. Nice to meet you. I'm Iris. I'm dating William. She was William's girlfriend. He had had a few girlfriends before, but this was the first time he formally introduced one to me. No way. William said, "We're thinking of getting married." So, they came to introduce me to his future wife. My eyes welled up with tears as I looked into his earnest eyes. He's grown up so well. William told me he met Iris at a social gathering. Watching them talk about how they met, they looked so happy and it was heartwarming. Iris was friendly and easy to talk to. While I felt a little sad about being apart from my son, I was happy for him finding a good wife. And then they got married. They had a daughter, Emma. 16 years have passed since then, and my granddaughter Emma is now in high school. After retiring, I worked part-time for a while, but now I'm living on my pension. Perhaps because I worked too hard when I was younger, I now suffer from rheumatism and can't walk without a cane. I visit the doctor once a month, but the taxi fare to and from the hospital is honestly a strain financially. A few years ago, William and his family bought a condo near me. Grandma! We're here! Mom, how are you feeling? Oh, welcome. Thanks for coming as always. Well, not bad, I replied with a smile. Is Iris not with you today? She's at work again today. Mom's been really busy with work lately and hardly home. Oh, that's tough. At first, they used to come over often as a family of 3, but recently, Iris has been busy and we haven't seen much of her. I wanted to talk to you about something today, Mom. Talk. I wondered what he meant, and then he said, "Why don't you move in with us?" What? Mom, with your rheumatism and difficulty walking, it'd be more reassuring to have someone around, right? Luckily, we've got an extra room in our place. What do you think? Honestly, with my mobility issues, life had been challenging and I had my worries, so his offer was very welcome. But I had heard stories about in-laws moving in and causing friction in the marriage. Not wanting to cause any trouble and hoping for my son and his wife to live happily together, I said, I'd be sad to leave my familiar home. But thank you for worrying about me. Grandma. Well then, I'll deposit some money into your bank account every month. Please use that. You don't have to. I'm fine, really. What are you talking about? I know the medical and taxi expenses are a strain, aren't they? You've taken care of me all these years, let me do this much. William, thank you. A week later, my son's family came to visit again. Iris was with them this time, which had been rare lately. Maria, it's been a while. It's been a while. I heard you've been busy with work. You don't have to overdo it. Well, a little. But I'm not overdoing it. I wanted to see you, Iris said with a smile. I'm happy to see you too, Iris. Oh, I have an idea. I'll start driving you to the hospital. Iris works as an insurance saleswoman. So she has a flexible schedule and access to a company car, making it easy for her to provide transportation. But, seeing me looking apologetic, they said, it's okay. Iris is offering, after all. Right, Grandma. Let's ask Mom, okay? Are you sure it's all right? I don't want to impose. Of course, it's okay. William and Emma were all for it, so I accepted Iris's offer. From then on, once a month, Iris would drive me to the hospital. The drives with just Iris and me turned out to be really fun. She's a great conversationalist, and these trips were much more enjoyable than going alone. I even found myself looking forward to hospital days. But one day, as usual, I left my purse with Iris and went for my appointment. You seem to be doing well. Good. Thank you. After about 30 minutes and a bit of chatting, I returned to the waiting room. I was stunned to see Iris, who waited in the waiting room, going through my purse. What? Iris was taking my wallet out of my purse and looking inside. Why? I wanted to speak up, but hesitated. After watching her skillfully put the wallet back into my purse, I approached her. Iris, thanks for coming with me. No problem. Let's head back home. Iris acted as if nothing had happened. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. That night, Iris, William, and Emma came over. William, you're always so. Iris laughed as usual, unchanged. She's always been kind and considerate to me and the family. It's hard to believe she would rummage through someone's purse. What I saw today must have been a mistake. It has to be. I convinced myself. Years passed. I've been keeping my husband in his hometown cemetery, but since getting rheumatoid arthritis, I've found it hard to visit. I was thinking of asking someone to maintain the cemetery. I was happy to find it, but now, what should I do? The cost of treating my rheumatoid arthritis had been high, and I couldn't afford to keep the maintenance. I wanted to keep the place well for my husband, but it just wasn't feasible. Searching online, I found it would cost. It's impossible. Disheartened by the harsh reality, I sat on the sofa and sighed heavily. Then William called. Oh my, William. What's up? How did it go with the cemetery? It seems the maintenance fees are not cheap. I ended up venting to my son. Then William said, if the money I've been depositing monthly has added up, use that. And if it's not enough, I'll pitch in. Don't hesitate to ask. I had completely forgotten about the money William had been depositing. It was in a different bank than the one where my pension was deposited, and I never used it, so I hadn't withdrawn anything yet. Oh, right. Thank you so much. After hanging up, I decided to go to the bank to withdraw the money. When I checked my account, I saw a balance of only $9. What? I haven't withdrawn anything. Panicked, I asked the bank clerk to check. William had indeed deposited about $76,000 over the past 7 years. However, someone had been regularly withdrawing money using my cash card. I had no idea how this could have happened. I thought about telling William, but imagining how hard he worked to deposit that money, I felt too guilty to say, it's somehow gone. I was ashamed of myself for neglecting the account for 7 years. And then, on another day, Iris was again providing transportation for my hospital visit. She was chatting and smiling as usual. After my appointment, I returned to the waiting room and overheard. It appeared that Iris was on the phone with someone. Then, tonight at our usual place. Don't worry, I told my husband it's a company dinner. After a while, she ended the call. Iris was speaking in a sweet voice I had never heard her use before. Hearing her say she told her husband she was at a company drinking party, I instantly thought, is she having an affair? No way. Could it be? I could feel cold sweat running down my spine. I couldn't bring myself to speak to Iris and walked away. Sitting alone in the cafeteria, Iris found me. It seemed like she was looking for me. Maria, did you get lost? She asked with a smile. That smile sent a chill down my spine. After she dropped me off at home, I called William. William, about Iris today. Iris? Oh, she's having dinner with her colleague. Why, what's up? Oh, nothing. Just wondering. Suspicious. I agonized for days. Could Iris be having an affair? Should I tell William? One weekend, with Emma at the sports club, William came to visit alone. William. There's something difficult to say. I decided to talk about Iris. I couldn't stand it anymore. William listened silently without saying a word. After about 10 seconds of silence, he spoke. Sure, she's been busy with work lately, but I can't believe she would cheat. Of course, he would be shocked to suddenly hear his wife is cheating. Faced with my son's stubborn disbelief, I decided to show him something significant. Yes, the bank account where William had been depositing money. Actually, it's not just that. The money you've been depositing, there's only about $9 left in the account. When I asked the bank, they said the money was withdrawn on the days Iris took me to the hospital.
No way! How? Why?
William was shocked and wide-eyed. No, I'm not saying it's definitely Iris. Sorry for saying this.
No, it's okay. Thanks for telling me. I'll look into it.
2 weeks later, William brought Iris to my house. She seemed confused, unaware of the reason. William, Iris, and I sat around the table. Normally, we would be chatting, but today was different. The air was heavy as William started to speak seriously. Iris, Mom, look at this, he said, showing the transaction details made with the bank card. Iris was startled when she saw it.
You recognize this, right, Iris? I don't know what you're talking about.
She was visibly flustered, her eyes darting around.
Why is this in your wallet? The dates and times match when Mom was at her appointments, right?
William stared at her intensely. Iris, panicking, said, How dare you look in my wallet?
Yes, I checked your wallet. This proves the money was withdrawn from the hospital's ATM, right? I don't know anything about it. Don't just look through my stuff. That's awful.
It seemed like she was desperately trying to blame my son in an attempt to escape responsibility.
Who's the awful one here? You've been stealing the cash card from Mom's purse and using it.
William shouted, causing Iris to visibly tremble. I was so happy when you drove me to the hospital every month. But using the money William deposited for me, that's just too much. Iris, cornered by our questions, suddenly snorted and retorted, That money William put in is for the family, right? There's no problem with me using it. It's not your money. William and I were astounded by her response. But Iris didn't stop berating us.
Why don't you just appreciate that I was driving Maria around? It's fine to take some money as taxi fare. Why are you two getting so angry? After all the kindness I've shown, I deserve some gratitude for my behavior so far.
Iris had a demonic look. She had always been smiling and friendly. Her attitude now was terrifying.
Then tell us what you spent that money on. I've deposited $76,000 for Mom over 7 years, and almost all of it's been withdrawn. Explain that.
William demanded, anger in his voice.
Well, I'm a woman, and I want to stay beautiful. I just used it for some beauty expenses.
Iris claimed she had inadvertently used my money for cosmetics and clothes. Then William placed a photo in front of Iris. Her face went pale as she looked at it. It was a picture of Iris and a man, shoulder to shoulder, about to enter a motel.
Why? How could this be?
Iris seemed completely taken aback and confused. Actually, after hearing my story, William had hired a detective agency to investigate his wife's infidelity.
The affair partner is apparently a supervisor at the same company as Iris. This supervisor, around the same age as Iris, is married with 2 daughters. If he's married with kids, he probably doesn't have much money to spare either. You needed money for motel stays and dinners, didn't you? How did you find out? It was just a fling with him.
Don't lie. You've been involved for 5 years, right? William said, showing her more photos.
There's more evidence.
Iris, her face red with anger, began to lash out at us.
So what? It's okay to have a little fun. I've worked hard raising our daughter. I need a break too. Being with an ordinary guy like William isn't fun. This man is more exciting, and the thrill of an affair was enjoyable. William doesn't pay attention to me, and it's creepy how he always cares about your mom. And Maria. Why do I have to entertain an old lady every month? I deserve to have fun with my affair partner. I used the money to have fun with him and for his birthday gifts.
Iris confessed angrily, as if she was unrepentant. Just then, our granddaughter Emma appeared from the back room.
Mom, I can't believe this. Emma, did you hear all that?
I know everything.
How?
Actually, after William became aware of Iris's infidelity, he was prepared for divorce and looked gloomy every day. Noticing her father's unusual demeanor, Emma learned about her mother's affair. I can't forgive her for betraying Dad and Grandma, she exclaimed in anger. So, William, Emma, and I had a discussion and planned to confront Iris at my house today.
No, Emma, it's not like that. I'm going to break up with him, okay?
Iris desperately tried to make excuses. Emma said, Mom, you had an affair with a coworker, right? And he's married too. And you used the money Dad saved for Grandma for him? That's it, said Iris. Disgusting. You're the worst, Emma said and looked at Iris with contempt and rejection. Iris was visibly shocked by this and broke down crying. Later, William and I went to Iris's company. Nice to meet you.
I'm the husband of Iris. And I'm his mother.
About 20 colleagues from Iris's department and a few clients who seemed to be there for insurance consultations were present. The room began to buzz.
How can I help you?
Is Oliver Smith here?
Yes, that's me.
This man was Iris's affair partner. My wife seems to have been under your care for quite a while, William said, and Oliver's face turned pale.
No, I mean, the money Iris embezzled was actually what my son had been depositing for me. I live in a wheelchair, you know? I'm so sorry.
Oliver apologized to us. According to Oliver, he felt lonely due to minimal conversation with his wife, who was tired from household chores and part-time work, and their teenage daughters. He grew close to Iris, his subordinate, and they ended up having an affair.
Don't you have daughters? I have a precious daughter too. Aren't you ashamed to do this? Well, that's...
As the affair partner was fumbling and troubled, Iris arrived, possibly returning from a sales call. Seeing my son and me, she seemed to realize the situation and became flustered.
What are you doing here?
We came to see your affair partner, William said with a big smile. The colleagues, witnessing our family drama, began to whisper among themselves. So they were really having an affair, and to think she was embezzling money from her wheelchair-bound mother-in-law, that's awful. Iris and Oliver seemed quite uncomfortable. Customers who had overheard the commotion were saying, "Wow, an affair between employees. Better not sign any contracts here, it might get messy later. Let's leave. Can't trust this insurance company at all, I'm out of here," and with that, they left the store one after the other. Later, the rumor of Iris and Oliver's affair spread rapidly among the company and its clients, leading to many cancellations. Consequently, due to the damage to the company's reputation, both were effectively fired. Iris, having lost her job, desperately apologized to William and Emma. However, it was later revealed through information from Iris's colleagues that she had affairs with multiple men at the company. William and Emma were furious and immediately kicked Iris out of the house. The next day, Iris's parents came to my house with her. We deeply apologize for our daughter's inexcusable behavior. Iris' father apologized. However, Iris' mother, perhaps overly indulgent of her daughter, started defending her. Sure, what my daughter did was wrong, but doesn't your son also share some of the blame? Affairs aren't just one person's fault, and she's a victim because the man approached her, she said, starting to defend her daughter. Iris' father scolded her mother, "Enough. I said we came here to apologize today." He made Iris and her mother both apologized. "We are truly sorry,"
I'll take responsibility for the $76,000 William had deposited for you, which Iris used. We'll get it from her.
Iris, hearing her father's words, turned pale. Iris and her mother seemed unable to defy her father. As promised, a few days later, $76,000 was transferred to the designated account. After that, William and Iris got divorced. William claimed child support from Iris. Iris ended up owing alimony and child support to Emma and the $76,000 her parents had covered. Iris deserved it. Since then, Iris struggled to find a job and, after relying on Oliver, became incommunicado when he returned to his hometown. Abandoned by those around her and burdened with debt, she worked multiple part-time jobs daily. I heard from neighbors that Iris, who used to be slightly overweight, had become gaunt, almost unrecognizable. As for me, after William's divorce, at my suggestion, he and Emma moved in with me, and we decided to live together as a family of 3. I'm so happy to live with Grandma, Emma joyfully said, making me feel content. Now, I look forward to a happy life with my kind son and lovely granddaughter. My name is Lee, 35 years old, divorced with no children. Formerly employed at a securities firm, I now use my past experience to live as a trader. Since my divorce, I've been living in this slightly aged but beloved condo. For a trader like me, weekdays are almost routine. Today, like any other day, I step outside at 3:30 p.m. after the market closes. As I walk out through the well-maintained entrance, I take my usual route, pondering what to have for dinner tonight. That's when I hear an unexpected voice. It's from the beautiful tree-lined path in the large park in front of my place. Slowing my pace, I realize it's unmistakably his voice. Hey, is that Lee? It was indeed my ex-husband. I recognize his expression without even looking back. From his tone, I can almost see his sneering, sarcastic face. What? Lee, the one dumped by you? Yeah, the one who has financial difficulties. Financial difficulties? I overhear this, but more than anything, I wish I hadn't heard the sickeningly sweet voice that followed. Suddenly, I'm reminded of that day 3 years ago. I stop walking but can't bring myself to turn around. Unconcerned about me, the two of them come around to stand in front of me. They stand there, arms entwined, mockingly facing me. Seriously, it's Lee. You're still alive, huh? Really, when you disappeared, I thought you might be gone for good. After I left, I didn't think she could survive. No job, in her mid-30s, not young anymore. Ever since she decided to marry me, she's been dependent on me. You're still alive. That's great. The woman imitates crying, mocking me, while the foolish man keeps provoking. Despite their age, they sound like children, and their voices bring back memories I'd rather forget. I met my ex-husband at a mixer in West Hollywood. At that time, I had just broken up with a longtime boyfriend for reasons beyond our control, and I was devastated. Barely managing my job and hardly eating, I was persuaded by friends who believed the best remedy for a broken heart is a good man. So, I was dragged to my first high-end party, the kind frequented by Beverly Hills girls. In this area, fancy parties attended by business executives and people in the entertainment industry are common. The party I was taken to was not that fancy, but a gathering of business people. The girls ranged from working models to ordinary female, but everyone was glamorous, and they looked nothing like ordinary people. I felt out of place in my suit, returning from work, amidst the glamorous crowd. Still nursing a broken heart, I wanted to leave as soon as possible. My ex-husband, however, took an interest in me. Not particularly proactive, I received his daily messages with indifference, but he persisted without being discouraged. Even when I only replied to his messages depending on my mood, my ex-husband never gave up and continued to contact me. He would even ambush me in front of my office, asking me out on dates to cheer me up. Whether I returned directly from client meetings or gave him a cold shoulder, he persistently pursued me. Eventually, he even started waiting in front of my place, having somehow figured out where I lived. In hindsight, it was perfect stalking behavior. But at that time, I wasn't thinking clearly. After 3 months of such relentless pursuit, my weakened state began to change. I thought, despite how I'm treating him, he's doing all this for me. And with that thought, I fell right into my ex-husband's trap. Once he realized my feelings had shifted, he quickly escalated things. He was sweet and kind, pretending to care deeply for me as he tightened his grip. Before I knew it, I was drawn into my ex-husband's world. Dating equals marriage, he implied, and soon enough, we were meeting each other's families. He convinced me to quit my job, saying that once we were married, he would be the one earning for us. Consequently, just a month after accepting him, I found myself in a rushed marriage. Under normal circumstances, I would never have allowed such intrusion into my life. Looking back, it's truly unbelievable. I was just pretending to accept everything, without any will of my own. That's how weak I was after my breakup with my ex. After quitting my job, I had too much time on my hands and gradually began to regain my true self. I, who was once a strong-willed workaholic, became a housewife dependent on my husband. My days were dull, just waiting for my husband. Gradually, I started feeling disconnected from my true self. Once I realized this, I knew I wanted to be an equal partner, not just someone to be protected. I wanted to be strong enough to protect my partner too. I was honest with my ex-husband about my feelings. That's why I want to start working again. It was who I truly was. However, my ex-husband didn't want that for me. Instead, he completely negated me.
A woman should just be protected by a man. But... what? You want to earn more than me and show me up? Just because you broke up with a man, doesn't mean you should try to take control.
When I heard this, I understood clearly. He was proud to have married a career woman from a top brokerage firm, and he enjoyed having the upper hand over her. Despite this, he never really listened to me. He even put a GPS on my phone to restrict my movements. Yet, while I was confined to the house, he started spending less time at home. There were also days when he would come home wearing the same scent as when we first met at those parties. Then one day, he brought a woman home and declared, "Your role is over. From today, I'm living here with her. Just get your stuff out." It was a sudden announcement of divorce. I was too shocked to move, and he yelled at me for being clingy. "It's pitiful, stop it." "She's just slow because she's old," said the sweet-voiced woman, probably in her mid-20s, blinking her eyes and speaking coyly. Despite knowing how selfish it was, I felt oddly resigned to this predictable turn of events. I accepted his words and signed the papers. I tried to pack, but my belongings were so few due to my semi-captive life that they hardly filled a suitcase, which made me bitterly smile. So this was my married life, I thought, when I heard his irritating voice again.
Don't just stand there zoned out because you can't even eat properly.
What? I didn't understand what he meant. What does he mean I can't eat properly? As I pondered this, he made another unexpected and surprising statement. "You're receiving financial support, right?"
What?
"You've been dependent on me and can't work properly, right?" I recalled he mentioned something similar earlier. Where did he get such information?
No, that's not.
Yeah, I know. You can't do anything. You are controlled by GPS.
Don't try to hide behind your false pride.
He ranted on. Beside me, a woman continues to smirk.
So, why do you live in such an old place?
Isn't this place sketchy? She must have seen me coming out of the building. She looks up at the old building and laughs exaggeratedly. Can't help it.
Can't get anywhere to rent but a shabby place like this.
We're different, aren't we? The look in her eyes as she looks down on me is filled with nothing but disgust, just like before. Watching these two, I find myself secretly holding back laughter. What am I doing? I confront them coldly. Really, you know nothing. They must see a different me than the one before. They're clearly confused. I said, "You know nothing."
Huh? You have the nerve to say such embarrassing things without knowing anything about me.
My strong tone, laced with laughter, only adds to their confusion. They stare with tense faces, wondering what I'll say next.
Where did you hear I was receiving financial support?
That's just a rumor.
From where?
Well,
just something you made up to bring me down after we split, right? If you keep saying it, you start believing it's true. Humans are stupid like that.
Saying stupid with emphasis, my ex-husband's face turns red to the ears. I feel like hitting myself for ever being married to a man whose triumph is claiming his ex-high-flying stockbroker wife is having financial difficulties. This is the chance. It must be a prank by fate that we met, something we were never supposed to do. Maybe I'll play along. I have no intention of being in the same league as them, but I can't forgive what they've done. If they take the high ground, I'll give it back double. I decide and flip a switch within myself.
This condo is a super popular vintage complex. It's home to musicians, artists, and executives. Sometimes celebrities live here too. It's so popular that it was hard even to get in.
Their shocked faces look as if they're about to say, "What?" They probably don't even know what a vintage is. But they seem to have got the idea that it's expensive. That's probably why he easily took the bait.
What? That's just some fancy foreign name. This is just an old, rundown place, right? Like an old public housing project. Stop lying.
Huh?
You don't know?
What?
Vintage condominiums are popular and valuable despite their age. Some even increase in value. Places where the kind of people I mentioned earlier struggle to find a favorite to live in. You didn't know that?
My patronizing tone must make them feel quite ashamed. My ex-husband's face is visibly red with silence.
And hey, you don't seriously think there's public housing in such a popular area, do you?
Huh?
This is a popular area in the city, with lots of high-end condominiums with tight security, not tower blocks. A quiet residential area close to the downtown. You didn't even know that?
Oh!
A high-end vintage condo in a quiet residential area, close to all places. You mean you've been wandering around without even knowing that?
It's just a joke, right?
Thank goodness. I thought my ex-husband was making a scene without any knowledge. That would be so embarrassing.
I mean, oh, hi there. The person who happened to walk by in the middle of the conversation was our neighbor, out walking her dog. She greeted us with a beautiful smile, and I took the chance to ignore the two and chatted with her for a few minutes at the roadside. After she left with a polite nod, "So, was that a famous actress?" "And what if she was?" "You actually know her." "I'm a huge fan." "Can you take a picture with me?" "Please?" Come to think of it, I remember hearing him say she was his type while watching TV a long time ago. Despite liking such a classy and beautiful actress, my ex-husband was accustomed to attending flashy parties. From what I heard, celebrities and models frequented those parties, but that type of celebrity wouldn't usually set foot in such places. Reflecting on this, I probably appeared fresh and new to my ex-husband, given my unfamiliarity with that world. The woman in front of me also seemed more guy-friendly and demure back then than she does now. So obvious. I'm remembering all this as the woman, now dressed flamboyantly and looking furious, glares at me. Too bad.
If you had stayed with me, you might have gotten to know her. Make sure to cherish the woman you chose.
I intentionally grinned mockingly with a devilish expression. Even though you're supposedly a model, right? I couldn't stop smiling mockingly at the woman who couldn't hide her frustrated expression.
What? Don't be stingy. How the heck are you living in a place like this? What, did you commit a crime or something? Unlike you, I haven't committed any crimes.
My comment made my ex-husband frown and start to rage.
What? You used to say it all the time. This money is what I earned. You don't deserve a penny. You're locked up in the house anyway, so you don't need clothes or anything, right? If you want them, earn your own money. And on top of that, You barely gave me any living expenses under the excuse that you were hardly ever home, saying a woman should just be protected. But instead of being protected, I was confined and scrimped on. It was the worst, wasn't it? Don't say I confined you. Sounds like economic abuse to me. What? And the daily verbal abuse. That's a violation of the Domestic Violence Prevention Act, right? What? I'm saying you're a criminal.
My ex-husband's outburst suddenly quieted down, and he visibly paled. He's really easy to manipulate.
That's why I'm grateful to you. Huh? Because you showed up, I was able to leave that abusive jerk. I'm grateful we got close in such a short time. Maybe. What? Did you deliberately overlook our affair to get out of the marriage?
Well, you could say that.
I cut off all marital relations citing mental health reasons. What? It's true I was mentally shattered by the abuse.
No way could I deal with someone like that. It could have really broken me.
What? You're the worst. The worst is what you turned me into by pushing me to my limits. That's... And actually, it wasn't all that bad for you, was it? What? Well, if I couldn't let off steam at home, I had to do it outside, right? I knew you were going to parties even after we got married. What? It was obvious. You came home reeking of strong makeup and perfume. Well, a man like you, who can't live without women, would seek everything outside if he can't find it at home. And once you get hooked, you go all out to win them over. You look good by general standards, a corporate elite. Women at those parties fall for your type easily. I figured it was only a matter of time.
Thinking back to my former self, I feel sick. I was exactly the type I just described. Even though I was vulnerable, I regret wasting my time like that. I want to scream at my past self.
What? So you're saying I was just acting as you expected?
Pretty much.
What's that supposed to mean?
But it worked out, didn't it?
You got remarried to that model. It worked out for me too. Thanks to you rarely coming home, I got my mental health back on track, and more importantly, I made a lot of money with all that extra time. What? What do you mean?
You didn't notice?
I made a lot of money at home. How?
Forgot? I was working hard at a securities company.
You can't be serious.
Yes, I increased it through trading.
I was essentially a trader. So, when we got divorced... Right, I had already made millions. What? You never let me work after we got married and confined me, but you didn't care about me. I guess I was just a trophy wife to you, something to show off. So when it came to divorce, I knew you wouldn't bring up splitting assets because of your pride. And that's exactly what happened. Thanks to that, I could afford this vintage condo.
My ex-husband just stares at my smiling face, saying thanks. Then, the woman standing beside him, who had been silent, suddenly pointed her finger.
Wait, are you married?
Oh, you noticed? I answer, smiling, thinking finally.
And what's with that sparkly ring?
Oh, it's from Harry Winston. It's got a beautiful cut.
Harry Winston!
He really liked it and insisted it would look perfect on my finger. Oh, that simple ring you have suits you well too. She quickly hides her finger and turns red, looking down. Sorry, I didn't mean to one-up you, it just happens. I was just responding to what was said, playing verbal catch. Then my ex-husband started saying something incomprehensible again. Hey, aren't you being fooled?
What? A woman who made millions trading, living in a place like a vintage condo, and a guy comes after her?
Are you sure that's okay? You don't need to worry about me.
What? I'm just concerned that my ex-wife might be getting scammed.
Mind your own business.
What? You! The person I remarried is my ex-boyfriend from before I met you. We've been together since college, a connection that can't compare to what I had with you. Plus, he's now an independent businessman and CEO. He doesn't care about my wealth, unlike you.
My ex-husband fell silent, realizing my current husband is on a different level. But after a moment of silence, he began to argue again.
So, you must be living pretty comfortably, huh? What? You're raking it in as a trader, and your husband is a CEO. Living in a celebrity favorite vintage condo, right? So what?
We're connected, after all. Let's be friends, okay? What is this guy talking about? Why on earth would I want to be friends with them? I've already cut ties with my ex-husband. It's crystal clear what he's aiming for.
You're just trying to worm your way in, aren't you? What? Trying to snatch away the money you didn't get from the divorce settlement, right?
My ex-husband's face turned red with an awkward expression. His intentions being too transparent.
Maybe I should just say it then. What? I deliberately didn't claim alimony even though I knew I was entitled to it. What? You're not planning to claim it now, are you? You were the first one to try that, remember? What? To be precise, it's been just 2 years and 9 months since you handed me those divorce papers. What? But it's been over 3 years since you noticed my affair. You were talking about perfume and all that. Then I'll claim my share of the divorce assets from you. I have rights too.
Too bad.
The statute of limitations for divorce asset division is 2 years. Your rights have already expired.
Tough luck. I never imagined I'd see a person shake in reality like this. How much should I claim? I say, and he starts to stammer out a plea. Beside him, the woman yawns with an indifferent look. As if she thinks she's not involved. Hey.
What? You're also a target.
Huh?
It's obvious, isn't it? You had an affair with this man, knowing fully well that he was my spouse. It's only natural you should pay for that.
The shaking voices of 2 people were irritating to my ears. No choice then. I decided to drop the biggest bomb to silence them. Hey.
What? You seem to be earning quite a lot, doing a good job with your sales. What? Besides modeling, you seem to be working hard in other areas too.
My sly grin made her realize something. How do you know that? She whispered, not even attempting to hide her trembling.
My husband runs an event company, you know? Sometimes I help out there, and I've seen you there several times. Seems like you're quite good at charming those older gentlemen.
The moment I put it into words, the woman turned pale and clammed up.
What? What does that mean? Sam, not earning as much anymore? What? No, it's the same. In fact, I'm earning more than before. But your wife seems to be struggling for money? Stop! Just stop! But Sam is asking. Besides, it's about another job, so it's okay to talk about it, right? What? So tell me already. Your wife, she sometimes shows up at events related to my husband's business. Every time, she cozies up with men from the entertainment and advertising industries and disappears somewhere with them. What? Well, it's the same for both of you, isn't it? What? Sam, you're still showing up at parties, right? What? Former colleagues, you know, they kindly keep me updated. Lee's ex-husband, he's remarried, right? Saw him taking a girl home today. What's going on with him? They ask.
The space around the 3 of us went silent. As I was pondering what to do next, a familiar voice called out to me from a distance.
That's my husband. What? That handsome guy? No way, that car, it's super luxurious. Sorry, but it looks like he finished work early today. I've got to go, my husband is calling.
The man stood dumbfounded, and the woman turned red with frustration. They really are 2 of a kind. From behind, as I turned away, I could hear them arguing again. Probably shouting something at me. But to me, they're already a thing of the past. Goodbye, I whispered to myself, moving forward. 2 weeks have passed since then, and we are sitting in a cafe, enjoying tea while looking at the bright sea. There seem to be some changes in those 2, they appear to be separated now. According to my husband, she's about to be a divorcee, still cozying up to older men and even doing paid companionship lately. As for my ex-husband, Former colleagues say he keeps bringing women home, asking them, "I live alone, why don't we continue drinking at my place?"
Well, I had heard from you about how awful they were, but they really are a different breed of people.
My husband says, savoring the rich aroma of his coffee.
The whole thing started with my breakup with Sean, you know. Oh, right. It was so sudden. If I had more time to prepare, I could have gone abroad with him, avoiding all that wasted time.
I look intently at my husband, who seems a bit tense. He was the boyfriend I had tearfully broken up with back then. He was a hardworking businessman, always wanting to work overseas since his younger days, and it just happened suddenly back then. As a top-performing stockbroker, I couldn't just abandon my job and go abroad, so I had to choose to part ways with the man I thought I'd spend my life with. I cut him off as he starts to say something. No need for excuses. I know there are things Sean as a single employee couldn't control, so it's nobody's fault, I say with a smile. He exhales relievedly. I can feel the cool, refreshing juice going down my throat, a drink I haven't had in a while.
But it's complicated, isn't it? Even though it's someone else's business. It's not completely unrelated to me, though. Well, yes.
But it's fine, isn't it?
Once it's gotten to that point, it's none of my business anymore, and it's all due to their own actions. You're still so straightforward. They should be thankful I didn't demand alimony.
I really thought about it at that time, claiming alimony. But even if I got the money, nothing would change, and just the thought of spending money from such people makes my skin crawl. That's why it's okay, I say, enjoying the taste once again.
By the way, why didn't you drink coffee today?
Yeah.
You used to love the coffee here, didn't you?
Yes. My husband looks at me curiously as I pull out a photo from my bag. His hands tremble as he holds it, and his eyes seem to moisten.
It's 9th week. Really? Is that our baby in your belly?
Yes, that's why I had mixed juice today. Or rather, coffee's off limits for a while. I can't feel the bulge yet, but somehow, I sense the warmth of a new life, making my cheeks relax.
You're looking like a mom now.
What?
Lee, you've got the face of a mom.
He says this with a softened face, already resembling a dad. Then I guess we need to find a coffee Lee can drink.
What?
It's impossible for coffee-loving Lee to give up coffee until she gives birth, right?
You're right. Some people change their preferences due to morning sickness and can't drink coffee, but I haven't had any of that.
Then I'll start looking for something right away. He immediately took out his phone and, muttering this and that, began searching with a look of enjoyment. I could easily imagine him soon rummaging around for various things for our baby. Which made me smile unintentionally.
What are you laughing at?
I was just thinking how happy I am. Hearing my words, my husband quickly replied with, "I'm happy too. When our child is born, our happiness will grow even more. I'm glad I met a future where I can smile. It's undoubtedly thanks to the person in front of me. Thank you."
No worries.
I want to weave more and more happiness with this joyfully smiling person. Tomorrow, the day after, 10 years from now, even 100 years later. With that thought in mind, I gazed at the photo on the table and wished for it fervently.